Live and online, it's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve, live and in living color on this Wednesday evening. Thankfully, it's a peaceful, sunny Wednesday evening, at least in eastern Iowa. I would assume by you two, judging by the glares on your cameras right now. No severe weather, no tornadic activity. I always love that phrase. I think it's even underused by meteorologists. Some active weather over the last couple of days, pretty much Friday and Tuesday. We got, at least out here, I can't speak for you guys, we got pretty much the exact same storm. High winds, actually where I used to live in Peru, Illinois, they got gusts up to like 90 miles an hour. It was basically a derecho out there.
Wow.
One of my good friends who I worked with actually in Peru, he's a meteorologist now in Davenport for the Quad Cities TV station down there. So he was texting me updates, and I was watching him do his stream yesterday afternoon, man, and they got whacked. They had like 26,000 without power in the QC. So it was wild, to say the very least. So glad you guys are safe. Glad there's no destruction outside of things that can be replaced. And it is the first week of April. It feels like a hard reset into spring. It's going to be out here, I would assume by you guys too. It's going to be in the upper 70s next week out here. It's going to be very nice. I'm already stocking up on Twisted Tea I plan to consume on my deck next week. So I am very excited for this. And we got a good show for you today. Some jerk off didn't want to see Dungeons and Dragons and didn't want to go to the theater with a bunch of cellar dwellers and watch what looked to be a ridiculous movie. And turned out it was critically acclaimed. And instead, he made his loyal compadres watch Murder Mystery 2. So that's what we're reviewing today. I don't know who it is, but it's the guy wearing a shirt of a baseball team that doesn't exist anymore. It's that guy.
What a hipster.
Tell me about it. They're the Beloit Sky Carp now, if you're curious. But anyway, good show in store for you today. And it's funny because I just I came back like maybe 2 hours ago from seeing the Super Mario Brothers movie. And I'm not going to get into my thoughts now. That's for next week. But I can't wait to talk about it with you guys. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a fun discussion, even if we do have differences of opinion. It's gotten decisively mixed reviews.
I saw that.
But I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say about it. I just published my review at stevepulaski.com if you're curious to take a look. But other than that, Dominic, how are you doing?
Oh, whirlwind a couple of days, and no pun intended with the storms and whatnot. Thankfully, nothing really by us at all. We were worried that we drove down, my wife and my father-in-law. We drove down to Kentucky, Paducah, Kentucky, to get our taxes done by a family friend. Now we filed jointly for the first time, so that's very exciting. More importantly, we went to the National Quilt Museum, which Chelsea is a
I was gonna ask you about that.
Yeah. So while Trump was getting arraigned and the Chicago elections were firing off, I was in the National Quilt Museum, and that was a time. Most importantly, though, Chelsea had a fantastic time. She loves quilting, even if she doesn't get to do it much. She just enjoys it. We got to have a nice little road trip for 4 to 5 hours. So
could you buy quilts there? I know it's a museum. Could you buy any there, or was it a lot like Betsy Ross, quilted this on a 3-day alcohol binge?
I think
I don't.
that'd be great.
Quilt museum,
bro. That'd be based if that actually was the case. No, the oldest quilt there was probably made in the 80s.
Okay.
But the detail is I appreciate the art. I'm joking around, but the quilts they showcase there are works of art, and they are fantastic. One as large as, I don't know, bigger than the wall behind me. And it looks like a giant Georgia O'Keeffe mural, but it's all hand stitched. You can imagine that. Think about how long it takes to repair a pair of jeans, the seams of a jeans. Now multiply that by literally 100. And that's the intricacy in the art that goes behind these quilts. So really, shout out to them. I'm not going to lambast any artist. But I may have had a couple more things on my priority list while that was happening yesterday, which I don't know if we want to talk about the election that happened in Chicago. But man, that was
Let's go, Brandon.
something. Yeah, let's go, Brandon. A lot of that happening, and God, what an upset.
I, I almost forgot. I almost forgot that it was happening. You got to remember, I don't like outside of my Facebook feed. I don't get the Chicago news out here. I almost forgot it was happening. I didn't realize it until I was on the phone with my girlfriend, and then the group chat started going bonkers and everything like that. My buddy's group chat started going bonkers and everything. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting now. Now that it is. I'll say I was surprised by it. I'm not gonna go more forward than that. Um, but I love the outrage, though. I love the outrage just because, like, the fact it was like for the week leading up to it, they kept saying it was going to be close. It was going to be a very close race. I was closer than I thought it was going to wind up being. I think we talked about it before. I thought Vallis was going to win pretty
A
handedly.
lot of people did. The
I truly
numbers were
did.
in Vallis. The polling was in Vallis's favor, but it just goes to show when younger people for those who don't know, there was the first round of voting, which was just like a gangbang of like 9 candidates all splitting the vote amongst each other. And then finally the runoff between the top two candidates. And the numbers showed that the first round of voting, anyone under 34, the under 34 crowd severely undervoted. But the numbers for the second round of voting for the under 34 crowd was noticeably more. Still very low. The turnout in Chicago overall is low, but
Very.
The anyone over 34, they saw a drop in turnout for the second round, and then under 34, an increase in turnout for the under 34. So it that really was one of the narratives of the night among many others. So now the whole country, particularly the progressive movement, the leftist movement, is all eyes are on Chicago, which has been a punching bag lately for the past 100 years, but really punching bag for all kinds of rhetoric. So we'll see what happens. Can't wait to look back on last night and when he gets in a whole bunch of scandals. BJ gets in a whole bunch of scandals, but last night was certainly interesting. We had a mutual friend. We were going at it back and forth in the chat, so that was a time.
Yeah, I'm going with my relatives this weekend. My grandpa's turning 90, so I'm going with my relatives this weekend, and I guarantee they're going to have some opinions on this mayoral
Are they
race.
Chicagoans?
No, they're not. No,
I
they're
mean, I'm
south.
not either.
They're the south side of the Chicago
But
suburbs.
you know, everyone
But
has an opinion on, and the r/Chicago
hell, I'm in Eastern
subreddit.
Iowa and I have an opinion on it.
Yeah,
Christ's
the
sake.
r/Chicago subreddit was so good. It was essentially a bunch of Chicagoans dunking on the Naperville users, and it's like, go back to Naperville for all the
Oh,
for all the opinionated, very opinionated voters of a certain candidate. There's like, go back to Naperville. So I just kept on seeing that on the feed. I thought that was great.
now, Joe, this is where I would ask how you are, but you're going to tell us because you had an active weekend, and I don't mean in a weather sense, technically. You were at C2E2. I'm very
Ooh.
jealous. You were one of, I think, four of my friends that were there
Yeah,
experiencing C2E2.
this was a big year for the convention. I didn't go last year because I was just kind of like, maybe I'm just kind of done with it. But the amount of guests they got this year, the amount of partners they worked with, Logan Theater in Chicago got to come out and they did a few panels out there. So a few of the podcasts I don't really listen to, but I've seen like YouTube videos of. They were there. It was like, man, besides the guests you have, which included a bunch of Marvel people, Chris Evans. I cannot pronounce the actor's name, but the guy that played Namor, he was there. Catherine Noon was there. Outside of that, you had the cast reunion of Avatar: The Last Airbender, Clone Wars for anybody that's big into Star Wars. One of the ones I went to, the Boy Meets World 30th anniversary reunion. I had such a fun time at that panel and seeing that cast back together. And then it was just like, wow, like you had at least 5 shows, movies, whatever, of reunions throughout the whole weekend. I was like, dude, I have to go. I had because like you don't have to pay to go to these panels. If you paid for your admission in there, you get to go to these panels. And just the guests alone, I was like, man, this is gonna be a good turnout this year, and it was. I ran into some actual cosplayers that like I've known on Instagram. And for those of you who you'll recognize them when I switch over here. This one is a Stranger Things cosplay. I've seen her on Instagram from time to time. I forgot what her name was. I do not want to show our actual chat and everything. But yeah, I got to meet a few of those people. I won't go into all of them. There's a tons of photos. I got to meet some mutual friends of ours. God, no, I just did something. Oh my God. Okay, there we go. I fixed it. My God. You would think after 2 years of running the show, doing it like this, I would get it down. Like I said, mutual friends of ours. And then yeah, I got to take a photo with Chris Evans. My friends wanted to do it. They asked me if you could split it 4 ways. I saw how much it would be 4 ways. I was like, screw it. And I use meet Chris Evans very lightly because it was literally 15 seconds of, all right, get in, stand in that spot, say cheese, say bye, and you're on. And I'm like, well, that was kind of a waste of money, honestly. I'd rather go to the smaller.
How much was he?
He was, if you did 4 people, I think it was $40 per person.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. And honestly, I was looking at the other guests where it's
so what's he, 160 individually?
I don't know what it was individually, honestly. I couldn't say because my friends were the ones that told me they want to do it. And I was like, all right, yeah, let's do it. Screw it, I'll be the 4th person because I was gonna be the jagoff that was gonna be like, nah, you 4, you 3, I'm not gonna join. So yeah, I got to meet them. I'd rather have used the money. He was cool. He was nice. I went up to him. I gave him a fist bump. I said hey man, loved you and Knives Out and defending Jacob. I'm trying to recognize his post endgame bullcrap that he was in. And I brought up some other roles that I'm looking forward to him doing. I said, hey man, you're gonna be playing Gene Kelly, and sometimes when I look at photos of him, I'm like, yeah, I can see it. But it was such short notice. It's I only got half of that out.
Did you actually had words with him?
I said 2 things to him, which was, okay, I can't wait to see you play Gene Kelly. You kind of look like him. And what's up, bro? That was it. That was my 2 sentences to him. And he said thank you for the Gene Kelly thing. He's like, finally somebody knows. That's what I heard on the way
awesome.
Out. I was like, oh,
well,
okay, cool.
that's my unsolicited advice here. I always say I've only met a handful. I've been fortunate enough to meet a handful of celebrities in my life. But I always, each one of them, I always try and bring up something that I know they don't get asked about a lot, because it catches them a little off guard. And sometimes you get a really authentic reaction. I always go back to my Tia Carrera question when I interviewed her. What was it like working with Pauly Shore on jury duty? I always I try to go where the puck is, because it's 98% of people that he saw throughout the week brought up Captain America, understandably and justifiably, but I always try to go where the puck isn't when I talk to celebrities.
Did Mookie do the right thing when he threw the trash can? Did he do the right thing?
That's the line. That's the line right there.
What was it? Even when I told him defending Jacob, which is the Apple TV series he starred in during the pandemic, even I noticed his eyes shot open, somebody knows that.
Hell yeah.
I was like, yeah, no, it was a very good miniseries. Besides C2E2, while I was in Chicago, I also got to hang out and go to it was kind of like an after party thing. We did cosplay karaoke at C2E2, which was a ton of fun. All right, a ton of fucking fun. I've never had so much fun watching the Big Lebowski sing Bohemian Rhapsody and everybody chime in. That was probably the best moment of my life. But a big group of people were like, we're gonna go see Dungeons, and originally I was gonna see this movie Tuesday night. A big group of people were like, we're gonna go see Dungeons and Dragons. If anybody wants to come with us, we're gonna go down to this theater right over here. And I was like, fuck it, why not? And so I got to go see Dungeons and Dragons with a bunch of nerds and everything. And I gotta say, the critics are kind of right on this one. I thought okay, maybe everybody's right on this one from the looks of things. I know I was the one as Dom and Steve, they were kind of I don't know about it. I was I kind of have faith in the directors who made Game Night and everything, John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein. I gotta say, man, this is one charming ass movie, dude. The plot, it's your standard adventure fantasy plot, but it's not spending too much time on that. The characters in this movie are really likable, and you love hanging out with them. It is actually playing. For those who've never played the game, doesn't matter if you've played anything fantasy, video game, whatever. It feels like you're playing with your friends, trying to understand what the hell is going on in this adventure. And it's a heist movie at the end of the day. Anybody can get down with a heist movie. So I gotta say, comedy wise, I was laughing my ass off at points. I got one big belly laugh where I was crying like tears of laughter from one of the jokes in this movie that involves like talking to the dead, which I thought was like really well done.
That was a good. That's the one they were pumping out on all the trailers and stuff. That is a good scene.
Yeah, the scene
that's
goes
actually
on longer,
clever.
and the longer it went, the funnier it gets. Like I thought, like okay, they're gonna play it out. No, by like the third person they have to raise, I was in tears from that scene. Action wise, I should have known this because Game Night had actually good action sequences. The action sequences in
Game Night was just a good movie. I really like that movie.
It really is, yeah. The action sequences.
I love that Game Night still gets his due too. Like a lot of people still cite it
because like I always feel like people don't really know it, and then whenever I bring it up, people are like, "No, I love Game Night." I'm like, "Oh, thank God." And I'm glad. The reason why I'm just kind of doing like a quick mini review is I want this movie to kind of get some other publicity because it wasn't tracking that well, and then it ended up getting good word of mouth over the weekend that enough people went to go see it, which I was happy to see. But yeah, what was I gonna say? Action wise, it's choreographed really good. They do another like they did in Game Night, one shot action sequence involving a character that can shapeshift into different animals, and like it's very creative and everything. And last but not least, one thing I actually liked is the use of practical effects. There's creatures in this movie that are practical and puppets and stuff, and they look really good. And I did not see that at all throughout any of the promotion. And to come into the movie and kind of get like surprised seeing like, if you're familiar with the game, because a few of the people in the crowd were like, "Oh my God," when like something popped up, I was like, "What the fuck is that?" But like, you know, when someone showed me a photo of it, I was like, "Holy shit!" Like going off an art book and actually translating it to online, online to a film, I was like, that was really well done. So props to these guys. I very much enjoyed it. It was a very charming adventure. The only criticism I had is the first act. I felt like it was kind of going slow. It was doing flashbacks and all this stuff, and I was like, maybe this movie is not as good as people made it out to be. But once it got going and the adventure started, you got with the group of people. Oh my God, I was having so much fun and found it really charming. It is 3 out of 4 stars for me.
I'll catch it on streaming when it does because I've been sold now between your praise and just a praise from a couple other friends. I will check it out. If this month honestly wasn't so slammed, I would probably have opted to see it, you know, or even if I was home this weekend and stuff. But doesn't matter. It'll be on streaming now by the end of May probably
yeah.
But there's already 4 movies coming out next week that I'm going to see. There's 4 movies next week. There's Renfield, Pope's Exorcist, Mafia Mama, don't ask me why, and Sweetwater. There's 4 movies alone next week, and I think there's 2 or 3 the following week too. So there's just a shitload coming out now as the spring movie season is upon us. So let's talk about an awful one, shall we? Or actually, we're saving that for the end. We're going into something actually positive. I forgot we put the news before the review here. There wasn't a whole lot of news this week, or at least news that we felt compelled to cover. So why don't we talk about something fun? Because we've always referenced the Barbie movie over the last several months now. It's finally coming out July 14th, right?
Yeah.
July 14th. I saw
21st, sorry.
The latest
21st.
trailer. Oh my God.
The trailer's great. I didn't watch it purposefully because I had a feeling it was going to be shown before Super Mario, and it was. And I watched it, and it was just a damn delight. You know, it was just a damn delight all around. But anyway, though, the posters have dropped as well as the trailer. Trailer looks really good. Art direction of this movie looks stunning.
Oh my God, dude.
And the posters are sexy as hell, just from a color standpoint, even too. These posters are cool. I swear to God, my favorite probably. It's a toss-up between, and I don't think there's a bad one in the bunch. Toss-up. I like what Ryan Gosling's shaping out to be. I like his Ken. I think he's a really good-looking Ken, truthfully. There's that one I like, and then I'm also really excited for Emerald Fennell. Emerald Fennell is in this as well, and she plays Midge. She plays the controversial, and a lot of people don't know this. I actually got schooled on this, or at least taught by this from Courtney Fairhurst Howard, who's a really good film critic I follow. She posted it, and she said that like it was kind of a history lesson for me too. I need to go and look into these characters. Midge, the one played by Emerald Fennell, director of Promising Young Woman, that was the pregnant Barbie in like the 70s, I want to say, the pregnant Barbie that caused like a fucking uproar because like God showing having a pregnant doll and like I don't know her husband. I can't remember her husband's name in the Barbie universe, but people were. I was reading all sorts of stuff where it was like critics and toy critics were like she needs to be packaged with her husband.
Oh my
like,
God.
like
That's so
shit.
good.
Like lunacy shit, man. Like so, I think that they're gonna play into that. I think it's gonna be really funny to see how they handle that. I like the poster too, and I'm interested to see. I don't think I've seen Emerald Fennell act. I don't think I've seen her act, and this is really the first major thing she's done since winning the original screenplay Oscar for Promising Young Woman a couple of years ago. So I'm pumped for that, but these posters look great. Barbie's been one of my most anticipated movies this year. I just think it looks so colorful and vibrant and wacky and in on the joke of itself, too. I think this movie is going to be a slam dunk, and I would also say if I were to pick a third favorite of the poster, I would probably say Dua Lipa.
Yeah.
That was a surprise. So I have been avoiding any information about this movie like the plague. The fact that I watched the trailer,
which is not easy, honestly.
It's not. I'm surprised I watched the trailer. It just popped up on my feed, and I was like, you snared me in. I got to watch it now. But I did not know it was being written by the. Am I getting this right? Promising Young Woman.
It's not. No, it's not. It's written by Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach.
Noah Baumbach's writing this
who are a couple. Emerald Fennell is just acting in this.
Got it.
Wrote and directed Promising Young Woman. She's an actress in this.
Either way, this is looking out to be great. I didn't even know the cast. So when our mutual friend sent me just a picture, just no context, just a picture of Michael Cera and the poster. I'm like, you gotta be effing kidding me. We were texting about that for like 10 minutes. You have gotta be kidding me. Oh, that was so good. So effing good. And now like Dua Lipa's in this. I think what's her name? She's gonna be the president in this in Barbie World. I'm like, dude, this is stacked. Issa Rae is gonna be like the president of Barbie World or whatever. I don't even know. This is I have not been hyped for this movie probably in a long time. I can't think of the last time. But I have literally made plans well before. I took friends out to go shopping. We happened to be in the mall, but we went out shopping at secondhand discount to like buy pink stuff for this premiere whenever we didn't even know the release date yet. So this is beyond hype.
If I wasn't doing the Mario thing this weekend, I probably would have saved it for Barbie. That's how excited I am for it too.
I am prioritizing this over Oppenheimer.
I'm going to the new the Alamo Drafthouse Theater here in Chicago. I'm going to go to the new one and see a double feature. I'm going to treat myself to both films.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
I was telling my friend that like, hey, Barbie's going to be lit because I mean, come on, look at it. Oppenheimer's going to be lit because, I mean, come on, don't look at the blast. Do not stare directly into the blast. But no, either way, it was a moment. And the meme generator, not the meme generator, the Barbie poster generator that everyone's doing now, at least it's going to be the hot thing for the next 72 hours probably, has been a godsend. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
AI is taking off, and I'm glad they're getting information through Barbie poster memes. They got my face, they got my friend's face, and it's looking good. So
you and our mutual friend were going hard in the paint.
Yeah, just a little bit. So if you want to, Joe, if you want to share some of the memes, I don't know if you have them lined up or not. Some of the memery that took place, particularly last night.
I got the Oppenheimer.
But we did it this morning.
Right now.
That's okay. The color gradient is so unique. I swear, this movie is going to get people to start paying attention to color in movies. It's subtle in so many others, but this movie is going to be like, this feels like plastic, and that's the point.
100 minutes is the runtime, which seems very perfect for something like this.
Excellent. That makes it so. I bet it's going to be so rewatchable.
And I'll tell you, it's another thing I'm looking forward to. Low key, very low key thing of this movie I'm looking forward to is the soundtrack. I think the soundtrack is gonna slap. I do. And like I said, I'm a big fan of Gerwig and Baumbach. I love, if you guys remember, this is Gerwig's first movie since Little Women. And I liked Little Women, but I also thought like after Lady Bird, I was like, far be it from me to tell Greta Gerwig what to do. But I was like, I would have rather her second movie been damn near anything besides a Marvel movie, a comic book movie, or the 12th adaptation of the same book. And as good as it was, I mean, I didn't love it as much as everybody else does, but like this, I'm like, this is perfect because this has been like a Barbie movie has been in the works for a long time. And I think this is really the movie that's going to, that's going to have Greta Gerwig like taking an existing property but putting her own stamp on it, and she's working with Noah Baumbach, who's been her partner now for I think 12 years. So I think that marriage in the writers' room is going to be really good for this movie.
Yeah, the fact that the soundtrack is being done by the same guy who has done The Golden Compass, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. The Secret Life of Pets too. So he's got a good pedigree. So
he gets around.
Dominic,
he gets around for
sure. I do have yours on screen right now. This Ken is a licensed operator.
Hell yeah.
And I'll throw mine up there. This Ken is a Scorpio.
The red flags send me.
I'm excited.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for this. I'm looking forward to. I'm not saying well, don't put it past me. I do have an action figure collection. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what like
merch
dolls, like movie dolls and merch that comes out with it.
Honestly, same.
Don't put it past me for buying some stuff.
Like,
and I just think it's cool, man. I think it's cool. I think it's not. It doesn't look generic. It doesn't look phoned in. It looks like they put a lot of care and attention into this thing.
Yeah, the word like Dom was saying, like the whole plastic look to it is my favorite thing because like, like I think it literally looks like a toy box come to life. And I know like the trailer kind of hints at her going to the real world eventually, and we'll see how that turns out. Because my only concern with this movie is like its comedy is like, okay, is it gonna be fish out of water the entire time, or are we actually gonna have something here with Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach writing the script? And it's just like I'm really hoping it's more than just like just fish out of water jokes, stuff like that. That's my only concern. It's just like I'm hoping the writing is just good, and it's not like, oh, we gotta be careful because we're writing for the Barbie property, but we can actually do something here.
That's the best part about it all, is the fact that they actually did something with it as opposed to just shovelware.
At the end of the day, because I've said this criticism to people, and like people are like, oh, so you're not looking forward to the Barbie movie? It's like, no, dude. At one point, this movie was going to be just an Amy Schumer comedy. Whatever the hell we're about to get with this movie, I'm telling you, is going to be leagues better than the alternate dimension where we had the Amy Schumer comedy of it.
Yeah, that was not shaping up to be exciting whatsoever.
No.
If Amy Schumer was the lead, like Margot Robbie fits this role. Margot Robbie is very good with comedy too. She doesn't do a ton, but she's very good with comedy. She's also, I think Babylon proved it. She's also a deftly physical performer too.
Yeah.
That was probably her most physical role yet. Was Babylon, just because she was a drug addict in the movie too. So I can't wait for Barbie. We are absolutely reviewing it on the show. We're gonna wear. I think I might mandate that we wear pink of some kind. That we wear pink for the Barbie review. So might have to go buy some stuff if you don't have anything. Already butting up against our Zoom sponsored intermission here, but I think it's enough time for at least me to kind of introduce this lovely movie we're talking about today, Murder Mystery 2. And the title is very prophetic because there's about two good things about it. It's in color. It's in color. We got that. That's a nice little boost. And then the second thing is without credits. It is 79 minutes. It takes just about enough. It's over faster than you can forget its existence entirely. And that's another very, very big positive about this, because there is an alternate universe where this movie is 2 hours and 10 minutes. And if you think I'm lying, a lot of Adam Sandler movies are. A lot of Adam Sandler movies are like an hour and 50. So to see this thing clock in at like 79 without credits is kind of surprising. Not to mention, this is the same man who made Sandy Wexler, which was 2 hours and 20 minutes of Adam Sandler being a Nepo baby, essentially. But Murder Mystery, if you remember it, it feels like a long time ago because it was released in 2019. It was a pre-pandemic movie. That was at the time probably Adam Sandler's best Netflix movie, which was not saying a whole lot, but it was probably the best because, and I said it, and I'll quote my actual review, my original review that I went back and read after watching the second movie, was I said Murder Mystery stands out as the best film of Adam Sandler's recent Netflix output, primarily because it doesn't do anything to make you outright loathe it.
Hmm.
Which, I mean, if you consider the Ridiculous Six, The Do-Over, Sandy Wexler, the movies we got leading up to Murder Mystery, you see why I said that. That became one of the most watched. I think at the time it was the most watched movie on Netflix, Murder Mystery.
Wow,
So,
really?
It was at the time. At the time, yeah, like it had a little floating cultural moment there for a second. So they greenlit a sequel pretty soon after. I think the pandemic probably stalled the production a little bit, so which is why we're getting it 4 years later. But they could have waited another 4 years, and I wouldn't have lost really any sleep. The first movie wasn't high art. It was kind of Agatha Christie done by Happy Madison in a way, but it was charming enough. I don't know if you guys saw it or what you guys thought of it, but it was charming enough. It was funny in spurts. And now Murder Mystery 2 regresses back down to the mean of like Ridiculous Six, Sandy Wexler, and the week of territory. Like, this is a really bizarre sequel. And I think the biggest reason it's so bizarre is that it drains damn near everything out of the original that made the original a passable, fluffy whodunit. This thing just hemorrhages any and all likability, and it does so really quickly. Like, I realized probably about 15 to 20 minutes in, I'm like, oh, I am definitely watching one of the worst movies of the year right now, aren't I? There's tornado sirens going off outside, and this is how it's going to end for Steve Pulaski right here, watching Murder Mystery 2 on Netflix. Probably got time for your general thoughts here, Joe, and then we'll cut to a Zoom-sponsored intermission and come back with Dom.
Dude, okay, so yeah, I didn't watch the first movie because it was just despite being probably the only person on this show that liked Hubie Halloween and I'm using it lightly there, it's just the Happy Madison comedies just don't do it for me anymore. I've been beat to death by them, literally. Like when I joined Sleepless with Steve, we had to review 2 of them. I can't even remember what they were, man. But I was just like, oh my god, dude! Like it was
when I joined this institution.
When I joined this great collective of men, it was the one where Chris Rock's daughter is getting married to Adam Sandler's son, or maybe vice versa.
Week of.
And dude, I hated that movie. That movie made me go, I never want to watch any of these again. And when Steve, went off to go do his thing after he graduated, I made it a thing on my show, Variety Viso. I was like, we're not reviewing any Adam Sandler movies. Like, that was my one rule. I'm like, I'm just done. Unless if he's in Uncut Gems or something not by Happy Madison, I will go see an Adam Sandler movie. But if it's Happy Madison, no. I'm just done with that. So, eventually we came back around and I watched Hubie Halloween. Maybe it was just enough time away from Adam Sandler. And I was just like, all right, you know what? All right, I could probably handle another one of these. And I just never watched Murder Mystery. Never got around to it. Just kind of fell off for me. So I went into this, especially knowing that the first one was pretty well received by people. Steve was even one of them that even told me, like, hey, like, that first one was actually pretty good, so maybe the second one will be. I gotta say, this second one, I guess I'm in the minority, because, thought this movie, I'm kidding, this movie sucked. I hate it. And I hate to say that about a movie. I hate to be that, like, rude or vile about a movie, but it really just came back around. It came back to everything I don't like about these movies, where it just feels like Adam Sandler and his production company going somewhere exotic, and they just make a movie while they're out there. It's like, literally, it's like anytime I've seen any movie with him where he goes somewhere exotic, whether it be grown-ups, so they get a cabin, grown-ups 2, they're just doing a bunch of fun stuff in a small town, just go with it. They literally go to the Bahamas or whatever, Cancun, whatever it was. It's just like, it just brought me back to all that. It's like, all Ridiculous Six, they got to dress up and be in a Western and everything, go to Texas and whatnot. The list goes on. It brought me back to all of those movies, man. And it's just like, I wanted to give this movie a chance, because I'll say this, I think Jennifer Aniston and Adam Sandler they're a decent duo in this movie. I like them and just go with it. So, why I didn't watch Murder Mystery, because out of all the women he's worked with in terms of like comedic duos, it's her and 51st Dates. Oh my god. What's the co-actress?
Drew Barrymore?
Yeah.
Drew Barrymore, yeah.
Yeah. Like that have been the only two, because man, you will never catch me watching this man and not Kevin Smith, Kings of Queens, Kevin, whatever his name is.
Kevin James.
Thank you. I see. Like I haven't watched so many of his movies in so long. I forgot his crew for the most part. Literally, it's like,
and none of them are in here either. There's nobody to lean on.
No, there really isn't. You have a performance from Mark Strong that is a Mark Strong performance. Like, it's kind of like, reminds me of his villain from Shazam 2, where it's just like he's just given villainous things to say or do, or like, cool things to say or do, because he's Mark Strong, and it's like the guy's so much better than this and deserves way more. Everybody in this movie is, honestly. I've seen Jennifer Aniston do better things. I've seen Adam Sandler do better things. So it's just like, again, I just don't get why they like. I get it. Maybe it's just an easy formula to do, and I know we're running up against the clock. We can go more into it later. So I'm fine with transferring to the intermission.
That's what we will do. We will be back here in about 60 to 90 seconds. Don't go anywhere. It is Sleepless with Steve. We come to you live and in living color.
I got some fighting words here.
I know you do, Dom. We will have to table them for about 60 to 90 seconds, though. We'll be back. You're watching Sleepless with Steve on YouTube. Don't go anywhere. More thoughts on Murder Mystery 2. Back and better than ever. Sleepless with Steve, -1 soul. Joe will be back momentarily, but that turns our attention to Dominic over here. We're talking Murder Mystery 2, rounding out the show with the review of Adam Sandler's latest Netflix train wreck, latest Happy Madison that makes you anything but happy. Dom, you're the intellectual of the three of us. I will give you that honor. So I would assume that you haven't seen really. We did review a Hubie Halloween, if I recall correctly, but have you seen any other Adam Sandler Netflix properties? Have you been a completionist like myself and seen them all?
No, only the ones that you have had me watch. Probably my favorite Adam Sandler movie, probably 51st Dates, because there's something sweet about that.
It's a toss up between that and, like, if we're talking like comedy.
I mean, like, yeah. So not like Uncut Gems or anything.
Yeah,
but like,
no, I kind of leave those. Like, if you're talking the entire filmography, it gets dicey. But if you're talking Happy Madison, like comedies, Adam Sandler, I would say it's probably a coin flip between 51st Dates and Click.
Oh, you know what? I take it back. Click is number one, because that actually did make me cry when it came out.
It did.
It had a good message. I appreciate it. That was a good. That's a good movie.
Really good. It had a really good message. It had a really good emotional, pull of that movie too. And it also, I loved it, like, almost at the start, just because it's like, who hasn't daydreamed about having a device like that? Which I thought was just a really ingenious thing. Christopher Walken with an underrated performance in that movie.
Yeah,
too. I love Click. It's easily the one I've seen the most.
It's such a gimmicky movie, but then all of a sudden it takes a turn. It's like, Christopher Walken, who are you? I'm the angel of death. And then just like 5 minutes of what the hell is going on.
It's sad as hell too. That ending, that climax is sad as hell.
It's almost an unfair kind of an FU kind of gut punch.
It is like I'm so glad Adam Sandler made it because I love Click from concept. Like if I never did review it, but if I would, that would be 3.5 stars. I thought that movie was
at least 3. Yeah, I would say 3.
Retro review.
I really do.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind, and I'll have to get I have to get my handkerchief close. But anyway, Dom, your general impressions.
I've never seen it.
What murder mystery? We have to. Okay. The truth is, you guys are kind of being elitist right now. This movie was funny. It had mystery. It had great chemistry. If you were my parents, if you're not my parents, I watched this on my laptop in Kentucky Days Inn. No, it was Drury Inn. Either way, at about 6 a.m. on my headphones, on my earbuds, my wireless earbuds. And I try my best not to do that, to degrade the cinematic experience. Watching this movie that way did not lose anything at all. It is a very, very straightforward. Here's 2 funny people riffing for about a couple hours or however long this movie was. And that is instantly that makes it a very uphill battle for a movie like that. It actually reminded, I guess if we talked about Issa Rae, we mentioned her earlier, who is good and she is funny, but that's like The Lovebirds. You guys remember that on Netflix with Kumail Nanjiani and Issa Rae?
Oh yeah.
That style of movie, that sub genre of movie where it's, here's 2 funny people and they're just kind of riffing their way through this plot. We kind of make it wacky and goofy with some murder and some explosions and some guns in a but kind of a blasé thing. It's a very, very, very fine line between The Lovebirds / Murder Mystery 2. And I did like Lovebirds over Murder Mystery 2, but it's kind of in that spectrum. It's a fine line between that and Game Night.
Oh yeah.
If you feel what I'm saying, it's a very fine line, and it's hard to say exactly what it is, but I do feel rude saying this, but it's kind of like just the overall effort, and that's not to say, a lot of set designers didn't work hard on it. Costuming people didn't work hard on it, et cetera, but it really just comes down to the script and the directing and the overall, like, guys, this is a Happy Madison comedy. You know what you're getting, and they deliver. They very much deliver on that front. So and I think Click was Happy Madison, right? So when a Click comes along, it's very refreshing, and you suddenly like perk up, and it's like, oh wow, they are capable of this. But Murder Mystery 2 was not that. I have not seen the original Murder Mystery. Apparently, that had more charm and more effort into it. So I've been told, but this does not make me want to go back and watch it. Let me say that. I don't know if I'll have time to. But yeah, I guess the good thing I'll say about this is that there was some interesting turns here and some comedic sudden, like, oh hey, this suddenly came out of nowhere, but it also felt cheap. But I didn't feel too scanned by it because I knew what I was going into. I knew what I was getting, so it's like, oh okay, this actually made me like, oh okay, perk up just a little bit, and then it quickly went back down. So yeah, it really like when it's Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston just kind of riffing like for 30 to 40 seconds, going back and forth on some small character flaw, and it's hardly, I mean, some of it ties into like their central emotional conflict, but a lot of it doesn't, and it just turns me off. So I'll leave it there.
I'll just briefly add though too, like, and I was gonna say you didn't watch this either, Joe, or you didn't watch the first one either.
No.
So I'm kind of talking in an echo on this one, but you know what's interesting is like the opening of this movie shows that like Nick and Audrey Spitz, that's Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston's character, they started a detective agency. That alone, I think it was Variety. No, it was Hollywood Reporter. The film critic of the Hollywood Reporter said it, and like I almost had to like try not to echo that same sentiment. But it was like it goes by so quickly, it almost feels like we missed a sequel. Like it almost feels like we missed
Yeah.
a sequel that they went from this couple that got ensnared in this murder mystery in the first movie to now that they are detectives or trying to have a detective agency in this one. It almost feels like they missed a sequel entirely with the prologue of this movie. Like
This
the
was
rest
like
of
the
the
beach episode. You know, this is like the beach episode. And there should have been something in between, a beach and Paris episode put into one. And you 100% know this is just Adam Sandler being like, "Hey, Jennifer Aniston, you want to go to Paris and wherever the island was for like a couple weeks?" I was like, "Hell yeah, that's all right. We'll set it there." And that's literally how he has admitted that is how, maybe not this movie, but that is literally how they do it.
Yeah.
That is how they do it. Do it because they go to all these exotic locations.
And I don't blame him for it. Like, hey, if I was living that life, I'd do the exact same thing.
I got another comment about Jennifer Aniston, but I'll table it. I'll let you go, Joe. What were you gonna say?
Even like Dom was kind of saying like, oh, the little bickering they do back and forth, it doesn't really add anything to their like their characters or like the whole arc of what they go through. It's something along the lines of that, right?
Yes.
Dude, it's not even just it doesn't add to anything. I can forgive if like bickering doesn't really add anything to like the overall arc of these characters, because it's a comedy. I get it. You're just here to serve jokes from time to time. That's the thing, man. It's just like there was no jokes. I just sat at my I was just watching at my on my computer right here where I'm at right now. Just like I laughed every once in a while, but it wasn't like. It was kind of just like I laughed because it's like, oh, finally, like there we go, something funny at least. But yeah, throughout most of this, man, I just kind of was just sitting here and like I came in hot on this movie, like saying like, oh no, this movie sucks, and like by all means, I don't like it. I don't think it's good. It's probably gonna end up on my worst of list. That doesn't mean like there wasn't things I did enjoy about this. Like I do think there was a few lines here or there that Adam Sandler delivered as kind of. One of my favorite just archetypes in comedies. This is why I also love hearing Steve whenever he goes on a rant about something. Is like, for instance, when Adam Sandler barricades the door with a bunch of furniture and he goes, "What? I gotta move all this shit now?" It's just like
I was just gonna mention that. Yeah,
like comedy like that always gets me. Whenever Steve goes on a rant and like says something along the lines of that shit always kills me. So like there's moments where it's like, damn, like. You actually, maybe that's why too I'm also heated, because it's just like, I do see the potential of like why the first one might have been a hit if these characters were along the lines of that, and if they actually focused on like, hey, let's actually write some stuff out or maybe work out some material before we shoot this scene, not just like eat the cheese and then we somehow get roofied and then like everything. But it's just like. That's all I'm asking for. Is just like, man, if you want to ad lib it. Just do good ad libbing. Work it out or something. You guys have all day, all right? Like, you're on Netflix's dime. Apparently, they bought you guys for like a movie deal of a century, honestly, from how many times you guys have been working with them and continue to work with them. So yeah, it's just that. And the other thing too is like, look, I hate to bring game night up for the third time so far on this show, but it's just like, that is a great comedy murder mystery. It actually has a fun plot, a fun premise, and it's got great writing. It has fun action too. Murder Mystery 2 kind of doesn't do any of that. And even when it comes down to the plot, as soon as a character was introduced, I'm like, that's the guy who did it. I'm like, they did it. 100% they did it. And like, they had like this whole thing where it's like, oh, our marriage might be falling apart or whatever. That is resolved so quick. Like, it almost was an insult to make it go on that long at the beginning of the movie where like that was an issue between these two characters. It literally is resolved in like 10 seconds. And like there was a whole thing, and it's so weird too because the way it's done, and I hate to spoil it, but it's like Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston accidentally roofie one of each other, and Adam Sandler takes fault on it. And somehow that just like fixes their relationship while they're in a burning building, and it was just like that was the most half-assed like thing I've ever seen in a while, and I was just like,
kind of toxic if you think about it.
Kind of toxic.
That whole
really?
Like
No
emotionally, that's kind of not good, guys.
Like and like as I'm sitting here, I'm just watching the movie. It's like he like it's just like he does all the sex jokes because Jennifer Aniston's hot and this guy wants to bang her, and it's like. Dude, it's like, man, it's just a cycle of the same material with all these movies, dude. It's just like, there's sometimes where it works, maybe back in the day or whatever, and I can forgive it. But like today, it's just like you do a comedy like that, and I'm not trying to be like all cancel culture or anything, but it's just like, dude, if you're gonna do a joke like that, you really gotta put better effort into it because
the stakes have been raised.
Yeah,
the stakes have been raised. I'm gonna say this. I'm not gonna make any friends with this opinion, but I wrote it in my review at stevepulaski.com. It's time to acknowledge too, like, and again, I won't make friends with this opinion, but it's time to acknowledge that, like, despite being a delightful screen presence, Jennifer Aniston plays the same goddamn character in every
1,000%.
Like,
that's not an argument.
And she gets a pass for it, though. It's starting to piss me off. Like, it's starting to piss me off. She gets a pass for it. Like, and here, she looks like it's been years since she had a stroke of inspiration. I was talking it over with my girlfriend, Catherine, and we were talking about it. She didn't watch this movie. She was a smart one. But we were talking about it. I told her, I said, and we both said it at the same time. I said, the last time Jennifer Aniston really won me over with the performance was, and we both said, We're the Millers. I said it was easily We're the Millers, too. And I still contend one of the funniest jokes in that movie is in the end when they turn on, when the cast pranks her and they turn on the radio and it's the Friends theme song. Like, but yeah, she sleepwalks through these movies too. Like another, and Murder Mystery was decent. This is now, I think, the third collaboration between the two of them, Sandler and Aniston, because and I didn't
go with it
at all. Yeah. I didn't like just go with it at all either. They're two like likable, attractive people, but like when they link up, it's like they are on fucking autopilot.
Because they are, and that's if you're that rich and you're on vacation. Honestly, I kind of would too if I were their age. You know, just kind of drifting on that, and that sounds very. We're talking down on them, but they're the one raking in the cash. So whatever, dude.
Rian Johnson proved though that you can have a bunch of celebrities and go on vacation and still make a good movie.
That is the ultimate. That is the end of the argument.
And it's a Netflix original still. Like
exactly. That's how I ended my review. I said there is another Netflix mystery movie out here that is leagues better than this. We haven't even talked about with this movie because it's so dense with things to talk about. Other two things. Number one, he was in the first movie. Adil Akhtar, who plays the Maharaja in this movie. He was one of the bright spots of this movie for the limited time that he does get. And again, take the funniest character and let's make him go away for 45 minutes. Take the funniest character and be like, peace out, Seacrest out. Number one. Number two, there's something to be said, and it's actually like a tired formula at this point. Action comedies, most of them in the mainstream Hollywood sense, action comedies to me are like you make it an action comedy when you're more confident in the former than the latter. And this is absolutely the case too, where there's these long, windy chase sequences and this like holy complex
it's a trap. It's a trap because like if you're a filmmaker and you're making these sequences, like it feels like you're putting in a lot of effort with a big payoff, but it's so played out. It's been that way for decades.
They're padding what's already a movie that's barely feature length too. I mean, 79 minutes for Christ's sake. It's not long.
A runaway van on the streets of Paris while people fight. Like that's
that. But you know what the sad part is though? That was probably, I know I made the joke that the only that's probably the singular best scene in this movie when Jennifer Aniston when the driver dies and Jennifer Aniston takes control of the wheel and Sandler's like hanging out trying not to fall out of the van.
Yeah.
That's kinetic and it's energetic and it works.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Even I would even say it's pretty strong directing from Jeremy Gerlich too.
There was a cool shot where like they did a 180 with the van and the way the camera spun, I was like, oh shit, we're actually trying now.
There's talent on working on this movie. There's absolute talent. Like
that's why I try not to say that, you know, this movie was lazy, this movie was effortless, even though I did say that. But you know, it's stuff like that where it's like someone's doing their job really well in any of these movies. Yeah. And, you know, hopefully, you know, they have something in their portfolio for, you know, a good 3-minute clip. And it's like, damn, you know, I really like the action in this scene. We're not going to mention what movie it's from, but the scene's really good. Yeah. So let's put it in our portfolio. Yeah, I just got to say the high point of this movie for me was probably, funny enough, The scene where all the suspects are coming in one at a time and they keep hiding them. That really felt like, I was like, you know what? This is some screwball. This is some arsenic and old lace shit right here, and I am down for it. It wasn't even shot that very well, but the main gist of it is like, okay, all right, we can work with this, and then they didn't.
Like that probably was another, like, again, that was the scene that actually made me laugh, because he's like, I gotta move all this shit out of the way. I gotta move all this shit out of the way again. But it's like,
they could have done it better too.
They could have done it better. They could have been using reaction shots of the people hiding. Like, it's just like, and then like they have to like still keep hiding the person while the person they just let into the room is talking smack about them. Like, there was so many ways to do it, but it's just like the joke essentially just came down to every single time they barricade the door, someone comes in and they have to hide that person in a different hiding spot, even though they want to go into a hiding spot that someone's already. And they repeated it like 5 times, and it was just like, okay, whatever.
Now, the repetition of this movie is really off the damn charts.
I hate to say this too, but like, the one thing I can say about like most Sandler comedies is, at least like if Adam Sandler and like the other lead are not doing it for me, there's at least a few side characters where it's like, okay, they're giving me something here. Dude, man, yeah, the side characters were really bad in this movie. I'm not gonna blame the actors. I don't think you were.
Oh, they're terrible. They are terrible.
Anything to work with, honestly. The general, whatever, I know he's from the first film, and I've seen a few clips with him in that first movie, so I know like he's actually like he was actually funny in that first film. But yeah, what is it, like the guy that basically is trying to hook up with, I don't even know these character names, I'm sorry, but the guy that's basically,
I thought Jennifer Aniston was hot the whole time.
Yeah, the sister of the guy who gets kidnapped, the bride to be, and then the ex-girlfriend. Those 4 characters, man, you could have honestly cut them out of this movie and we would have never lost anything.
They don't add any, and it's not a result of bad acting. It is entirely, the onus entirely rests on bad writing.
Yeah, no.
But nobody leaves it. I mean, you got Melanie Laurent, who's a really good actress, Jodie Turner-Smith, Enrique Ars, John Connie, who plays the Nambian colonel. Like, you have like, talented actors who have been in good projects before, but they don't get jack in this thing. They're done no favors by what is one of, and this says a lot too, one of the laziest scripts. This isn't the worst Adam Sandler movie on Netflix. It's not. Like, the Ridiculous 6 is worse, but you know what? Like, I gave Ridiculous 6 1 star, and that was his first Netflix movie. That was a Western. That was awful, but it had a concept, and it was tethered to a concept for all agonizing 117 minutes of that concept. Sandy Wexler, as bad as it was tethered to a concept. Even the do-over with David Spade, which I liked more than a lot of people did, I thought that movie was okay. That had a plot to it. That had a fairly involved plot.
That's true, yeah.
This is probably the laziest in terms of just narrative and in terms of just like effort exhibited by Sandler and Aniston. This is bad enough almost to be a black mark.
It did something, and I like this movie, but for a mystery movie, I give it this slack. But Detective Pikachu,
that's been on my mind recently with Super Mario too.
Is a mystery movie where all the clues and mystery are handed to the main characters. They're not discovered by the main characters; they're handed to them. This movie does the exact same thing. The fun of a mystery movie is you're watching the characters uncover the mystery, and you're going with them, and you're doing it at the same time. You're not handed where the guy's at. You're not handed a lead. You are supposed to discover all that. Like, you either do that way, or you do what Glass Onion does, and you flip this whole genre on its head. Like, you got to do it one way or the other. Doing it this route, it's just like, it just comes off kind of lazy, and it's just like, you're just using the mystery thing as a theme for just like character archetypes. That's literally what it just came down to. It's just so we can have character archetypes to make it easier for comedy for these people to come in, do comedy, and leave. Everybody in this movie, directors, writers, whatever, actors, cinematographers, everybody is just owed way more. And you're so right about I thought about that whole action thing you made, like where it's like they go on way too long. Dude, yeah, they have this fucking Eiffel Tower action sequence like they're making Rush Hour. It's like, dude, get out of here.
I was thinking that too.
Here, I'm gonna end here, and this is where I'll parlay into my closing thoughts. This will actually serve as my closing thoughts. Rest assured, though, coming later this year to Netflix, and if there's no set release date yet, there is another Adam Sandler movie we're getting this year. It's called Spaceman. And it is based on a book called Spaceman of Bohemia. And I'm just going to read you Netflix's plot description. Again, this has no release date. It's fall 2023. But the premise for this, I'll read you it. It's brief. As an astronaut, and Sandler's the astronaut, as an astronaut sent to the edge of the galaxy to collect mysterious ancient dust finds his earthly life falling to pieces, he turns to the only voice who can help him try to put it back together. It just so happens to belong to a creature from the beginning of time lurking in the shadows of his ship. This is a sci-fi drama, and I will add, directed by the same man who directed Chernobyl.
Okay, all right.
And it's also, last point, Isabella Rossellini's in it, Carey Mulligan's in it, Paul Dano's in it.
Okay, down.
And Channing Tatum produces.
Hold on. What?
I mean, this shit is low-key stacked. Like, low-key stacked. And I found this out about 10 minutes before we went live. That this thing's coming out. Yeah, Johan Renck is the director, and he directed Chernobyl. It's called Spaceman. It's coming on Netflix in 2023. I didn't look to see if there's any promotional images, but like, I mean, Uncut Gems, it's kind of hard to compare anything to that or hold it to the weight of that, but this could be the next really good Adam Sandler movie. I mean, on premise alone. And I mean, that premise too was also like so specific it was vague, and I kind of appreciate that. I'll hold out hope for Spaceman because I will watch that. I got nothing better to do. And it's also worth noting, I should probably have added too, this is not a Happy Madison production, if you couldn't already tell. This is not a Happy Madison movie, this Spaceman thing.
Oh, when you said drama, I was like, oh, all right, we're free of that at least.
You know, but Hustle was the basketball movie. Hustle was
good.
So like Hustle was Happy Madison too. I didn't think it was, but I went back and looked and it was. I'm holding out hope for Spaceman. Okay, you throw Paul Dano and Carey Mulligan, like they don't just take on any kind of bullshit. So like you throw that into the mix, and I'm interested in Spaceman. By the time Spaceman comes out, probably in September or October, I will have entirely forgotten about Murder Mystery 2 until late December when I go and make my worst list of the year. It's 1.5 out of 4 stars. We'll go Joe then Dom to send us home on Murder Mystery 2.
Oh, my boy Adam. Look, dude, I know you could do good things. I know you like doing this. You like doing this stuff because it's just like it's what made you successful. And you know, if I was you, I'd probably do the exact same thing, man. I just want something, man. For God's sakes, I like Hubie Halloween, okay? Like I'm pretty easy to please when it comes to your comedies from time to time, okay? I like, you know, you throw Halloween in there and I'll be like, like, you know, I'll clap my hands and smile while I watch the movie. But it's just like when you know, do something like this, you go to exotic places and whatnot, and you just don't really try with anybody in this movie. The thing I can at least say with Hubie Halloween is like, man, at least all those side characters were trying. They were at least giving me something. Here it's like nobody was, and it's probably because they weren't given anything to do, just like everybody in this movie. I really want to know what it's like working as a cameraman on one of these movies. Is it just like, do I just set up the tripod here and we're just gonna just follow wherever they go? Like, I really want to know. For me, man, this movie, it's just not a good time. Like there's so many better things to watch on Netflix. We've named so many already. There's a better action comedy adventure film to go see in theaters right now that I talked about earlier in this show. For me, dude, I was at a toss up between 1 star and 1.5. Honestly though, when you made that action claim and I thought about it, I was like, yeah, man, like that could have been cut down by a whole lot. I think I'm just gonna go down to 1 star, man. Like there was really not much for me here to like, and it's just like maybe. If it didn't feel
if you would have trimmed any more fat, this thing would have been an hour-long special.
Honestly, yeah. It just felt lazy. It really did, and it's just like there's bad movies I've seen, but it just, you know, I could tell it's like it wasn't lazy. It was just misguided. This just felt lazy, and it's like I'm just gonna give it 1 star on that alone.
Dom, you send us home.
1.5 out of 4 stars. I wish I was taking the vacation these people were taking as they made it. That's it. 1.5 out of 4. Go watch Click. We're good.
I would have taken the paycheck these people got for this thing, because holy crap. But yeah, sorry, we really should have seen D&D. I fumbled the bag on that.
I'm okay talking about
it. Hey, we're gonna need a bad movie at the end of the year at some point to put on a list, so might as well sacrifice one.
Yeah, this probably at the moment right now dethrones Children of the Corn for the worst movie of the year, truthfully, because this thing was just trash. Children of the Corn at least had a couple interesting devices used. This thing, its next interesting device would be its first for Murder Mystery 2. That's our show, though. Super Mario Brothers movie is what we are tackling next Wednesday. Looking forward to it. Very, very excited for it. I think after that, we're reviewing Air, too. Is that on the list as well?
I think that's right, because they come out the same weekend, but obviously Mario's the bigger thing. So
they're out today. They're both out today, because it's a weird Wednesday release, because I think it says something to do with Easter Good Friday. Good Friday and stuff like that. But yeah, we're going to review Super Mario Brothers next week. I've already seen it. I cannot wait to talk about it with you two gents, as well as whatever news topics come across the Sleepless desk. That's our show tonight. Dominic Guanzon, Joe Viso, outstanding job as always for them and yours truly. This has been Sleepless with Steve.
live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.